Circle of life is growing. I was hoping to meet up with the people from the Pachi Dot and the Didi Dot. But I'm presuming that they're all occupied right now and that they're at the other camps. So I want to acknowledge the territory that we're on first of all. This is the land that is a shared territory between the Pachi Dot and the Didi Dot Nation. For those of you who don't know who I am, many of you call me Grandma because I've been out here for so long. I've been on the front lines, on many different front lines for well over 35 years. I was one of the few that responded when the first call out came out. And I heard about Uncle Bill Jones, and what he was doing. I also heard what Katie George Jim was doing. I also heard, what was happening with our youth. But long before I even heard what they were doing today and yesterday, I'd also heard the stories of the late Holloquy, Ralph Edgar from Didi Dot. Many, many years ago, I had the honor to sit with him and my friend Sierra as we shared the Rainbow Staff and as we were preparing for our walk across the country from Victoria to Ottawa. But before we started our walk, Holloquy shared some stories, because Holloquy has lived on this land and shared the medicines for many, many years. And so over the years, I visited this land. My memories of Holloquy are good medicines. They're good memories that I have said that, I would carry on the walk, because Holloquy, he passed away a few years ago, but he left behind an incredible legacy. And one of the things that, he was so proud of was where he came from. So before I go on, that memory lane with, the memories of Holloquy, I'd actually like to take this opportunity to let you know who I am. Most of you already know, I'm Grandma Osa. In the English name, that means Grandma Rose. But I've started the process with getting people to decolonize. Call us by our traditional names. I come to this land back in 1984 was the first time I visited. I came from Cla'aman. Cla'aman is the nation that is the furthest north of all the Coast Salish territory. So I too am a visitor to this land. But because my heart told me to respond when I heard the call-outs, I've responded by bringing many different people together. I've responded by bringing food, bringing my spirit here. And so today it gives me a great honor to introduce somebody else that I brought, the chief Reuben George from the Tsleil-Waututh Nation. He will introduce his family after, oh, I don't know what that was. So come on up.
ACM, my beloved relations, I'm thankful for being here. You know, we stand in solidarity, and what you're going to hear from my family is that the connection that we have to the lands and to the waters is essential for our being. And even in our words of introduction, we say that Natsamat in our Coast Salish language is one heart, one mind, one prayer, one spirit. And that's not just us as human beings, but it's everything that Creator created. That's what we're oneness and part of. And we've been we stand here in solidarity with that, because at home we're protecting the same thing. We're protecting the trees and the water and the fish and the salmon, and we enhance what we have too. We protect and make sure we enhance what we have into Tsleil-Waututh Nation. So we couldn't stay home when this is going on. That we wanted to come support our relations. We wanted to support the people that are standing up, because we've been doing it now for myself for 11 years. And the damn pipeline has not been built, and we'll make sure it doesn't get built. So I'm actually going to speak last, and but I'm going to call up my family, and they're going to share a bit. And my dynamic son is going to come, then my cousin, but my spiritual son, Will. First Cedar, George Parker, then Will. Then my sister, Charlene. They're going to come up and share some words with you of our experience and the spirit of the movement of what we created at home was based on spirit. The founder of Greenpeace, a good friend of mine, a good friend of the George family, Rex Weiler, was part of those beginning talks about stopping Kinder Morgan, and we worked with about 20 NGOs. And the elders said, before we do any work with anybody, we invite you to ceremony for a couple months so you can understand why we're doing what we're doing. And Rex and the friends ended up coming to ceremony for a whole year. And we collectively understood the words of what we say of Natsamat, of one heart, one mind, one spirit together. If anything's hurting around that, we want to take care of it, and we want to protect that. And that's what we wanted to teach them, and that's what they learned. And that was how it was the beginning of how we started the fight against the Kinder Morgan pipeline, now the Trans Mountain pipeline. So I'm happy to come here and to share a little bit about what we did. But my hands up to the locals. Our elder Bill gave us a beautiful welcome up by the trees that they're protecting. Gave us a beautiful welcome and invited us into his territory to share some words. You know, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't come into somebody's territory without that invitation. So I'm happy that Rose and Bill, our elders, did that for us. So thank you. And I call up my son. We share the same spirit name, Scaloose. So I call up my son, Cedar, George Parker.
name's Cedar George Parker from the Tsleil-Waututh Nation and Tulalip tribes. What a beautiful day. Even if it was raining, it would be a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day to fight, let me tell you, son. Yeah, let's get it active, huh? Yeah, driving through here, I was thinking about what I love. And I thought about my my little brother, my nieces and nephews. I was just talking with somebody about nieces and nephews. You know, having a little baby, being born into this world. You know, and it's times like that where we need to start talking about a different type of equality. Now, I want you to remember that equality. You know, I love my little brother. When he was born, I held him in my arms. When he was born, I held him in my arms and I promised I'd protect him. I promised I would hold him dear to me. I looked him in his beautiful eyes, brown little beautiful eyes. A little light skin like me, you know. Little Chicano, cutie, huh? And I looked in his eyes and I promised I'd protect him. I'll do whatever I can to protect them. And that especially means protecting the future. It's about that equality for the future. My dad got to live off the land. I'm the first generation to say I can't eat off the land. I'm the first generation to say I can't do our water ceremonies on the land. But they can't kill our hope. My grandmother, when I was growing up, I was in a high school shooting, and I lived in a bad place in the States. And I saw my friends and my family dead, you know. And my grandmother said they could take away your people. They could take away your land. They can cage you up. But they can never ever take away your hope to fight for a better day, so that our young people can have that equality, so that when they grow up, they can have fresh air. They can grow up in a safe, secure future. They can grow up being who they are, beautiful. They can never take away our hope. They can never take away our prayer. They can never take away the fighting spirit within us to stand up for what we see as right. It's not about equality just for our children, it's equality for the forest and the land. When I went through those deaths and those shootings, I felt lonely. Back on my reservation down in Tulalip, I found a tree. I meditated with it every day, sometimes 3 hours, my little brother would say, because I needed to let go. That tree I go to, you know, it taught me, because, you know, my mom, my ceremonial dad, and my dad, you know, when they're gone, who's going to be there for me? I have the land that's going to be there for me. The trees are going to be there for us, our children. That's why we have to fight. Because who am I going to have to validate me, reassure me, and guide me? We have the beauty and the knowledge of the land to guide us through hard times, to guide us from trauma, to turn trauma into love, to find learning in despair times. That's what our land does. That's what we're fighting for. So that our young ones can grow up in safety and security, so that when you go home after this fight, you can look your young one in the eyes and know that you chose today, in this very moment. Feel your spirit, feel that fighting spirit. Woo! So that when you go home, look your baby in the eye and know that you made a decision to fight. If this body can create a future for tomorrow, I'll gladly give it. I'll gladly give it, like I did for my little brother. We're driving down a hill, 20 miles an hour. For you Canadians, about 25 kilometers. And, you know, we're driving down. We're going to hit a rock, and it was a steep hill. And we're riding, and I fell off the wagon, literally. Literally fell off the wagon. and I picked him up and I threw him. And then we hit a big rock like this, and I flew off, and I opened up. You see my ripped jeans? I hit my head like that, and it broke apart, and I bled everywhere. And you know, later on, I told him it's okay because he was crying. There was so much blood. I hit my ear, and he was crying. And a lot of people, you know, I'm not going to pity myself no more because I did my job. Just like what we're all doing here, we're doing our job. I told them I won. It was a victory. Don't feel sad for me because I did what I wanted to. It's a choice. It was a choice to save you and put myself in the way. Because that's our jobs. I can see that, and everybody will do that for the ones we love. We'll put ourselves in the way so that they can have a future where they can be safe. They can be secure, where they don't need to be afraid of the future. That's why we do what we do. It's for the dreams of the ones that we lost, and it's for the dreams that we have tomorrow, because we're here right now in this moment to stand up and fight for what we see is right, to never lose our hope, to look our little ones in the eyes and say, we'll fight for you. We'll fight for the little ones. Think about the little ones right now. We'll fight. We'll fight. We ain't gonna lose. And I here. So we'll find learning in disparity. We'll turn trauma into love, and we'll fight for what we believe in. We'll create a future for our young ones from the love of our hearts with that fighting spirit. So, hell no, this ain't gonna happen. So when I say no means y'all say no. No means? No. No means? No. All right, with your fighting spirit in your heart, talk to it. Talk to that fighting spirit. Think about that little one. No means? No. No means? No. So, I'm gonna ask, you know, my ceremonial dad, and I remember he was teaching me when I was new in the ceremony. He would take me for walks in the forest, and he would teach me how to connect. You know, they'll teach me how to connect. You know, and this is my ceremonial dad. Teach me how to connect to the land. He would take me on a walk. Teach me how to connect to the land, know where we're from, be proud of who we are, where we're from. So I encourage everybody here to pick a tree. Connect to that tree. Because like me, when I lost my friends, I realized I'm never ever alone as long as the land is alive. So I encourage y'all, find a tree, because with my tree I have in Tulalip that I left, I connected to it. It showed me I'm never, you know, in our culture, I said, we're never truly alone. I never lost anybody, I lost myself, because we connect to spirit. That's what the tree taught me. My tree taught me I'm never alone. My land taught me I'm never alone. And look at us. We're all fighting here. We're not alone. That's what my spiritual dad taught me. He guided me through the forest. He taught me how to connect, how to talk to the trees. He taught me these things, right? So I'm going to give it up for the one, the only, Will George.
Oh yeah, what's up, my beautiful people? Yeah, what's up? So excited. Look how beautiful each and every one of you are. My beautiful family, we come here, stand in solidarity with dear Auntie Rose. She was there on Burby Mountain when our family needed her. Thanking each and every one of you for having your hearts, being who you are, being here today, standing with the local nations here, helping them stand up for their hereditary responsibilities, protect their lands and waters. Those are our spiritual highways out there. That's our churches and temples. Look how beautiful it is. That's what you're here to protect. Thanking you. Really recognizing each and every one of you for being here. So we can do a little call and response today throughout my speech. So when I say land protectors, who are we? And you're gonna all go, oh, oh. Okay, we'll give it a good test here. Land defenders, who are we? Yes, you let them know we are here. This is what it is to stand with Indigenous people. I look in your eyes, I see the same concerns, the same compassion. These trees are old, they're beautiful. This is what got our people through. Centuries and centuries. There's sockeye fossil bones found on this island, 4 million years old. So again, Rose, hands are up to you. Thanking you for being here. Thanking you for inviting me and my family. Really dear to my heart. And for those that have been holding it down this campsite, the residents here, we've been watching you. We're so proud. We're so excited to see what you guys can pull off here. So those that have been staying at this camp and holding it down, really heartfelt. A lot of gratitude we have for you putting up this fight, protecting what's sacred for our loved ones. You know, yeah. You know, there's so many things that are involved with these movements, and you know, our Indigenous people were spread really thin. You know, all the fights we have to do. I myself, my family, we've been fighting Trans Mountain. I've been dedicated the last 4 years of my life towards fighting, standing up to big oil, standing up to globalists, standing up to government. Not 1 inch of this ground wasn't paid for the blood of our ancestors. We do this to honor our ancestors. We do this to become ancestors for the ones that are come, to make sure this is still there for them. Some of these trees are older than Jesus. Do they forget how BC came to be? It was a beautiful coastline. It was a beautiful rainforest. That's what you're standing up for. Land defenders, who are we? Yes, there we go. So excited, it really warms my family's heart. It is very dear to us. You know, now what you're feeling right now, if I can stop talking, you feel that calmness? That's what my dad said, that one heart, that one mind. We're all on the same wavelength, that same tone, that spiritual vibe. We all have that right now. And this is how we're going to break the backs of this movement. It's all these people, each and every one of you is coming here. We'll break the backs of them. We'll protect these lands. This is what we're to do. People power. Each and every one of you, back there hiding in the shade, all of you, what you're doing is very dear to our hearts, standing with Indigenous people. For far too long, we feel like we don't have a voice. We lost that voice. Our people are thrown out of windows, driven over by vehicles. It still stems out today. Our ancestors are working hard on the other side. 215 graves of our loved ones, our children, were just found. That's a dark history of Canada. This is what truth and reconciliation should look like. You beautiful people standing here, give it up for yourselves. Let them know we're here. You know, my family, we wanted to come here for quite some time and come support, but you know, the tactics they use on our people, you know, our elected officials, our elected leaders, forced to sign these deals. They got to protect and provide for their community. And the community here, you know, it was like the dark ages not too long ago. Lots of poverty, lots of suicide. The leadership has to protect the people. They can't hunt, they can't gather no more. So it's hard when they pit us against each other like this. So you come in here and supporting our dear loved ones from this nation, it speaks loud, it speaks proud. So not much more I can say, but really thanking you, each and every one of you, for having your hearts and being here. Osium. Next for my family, we traveled up here. I'm so excited. I wanted to come here for weeks. Probably can come here next week for a few days, but I was lucky enough to travel with my family. So our matriarch and my dear spiritual mother, Charlene Alec, beautiful words you're going to hear coming up here. This is who taught us. This is our matriarch, Charlene Alec, my dear Auntie Mummy. I started lacing into cookies. When I knew we were coming here, I was like, "Are you gonna make cookies?" So I got a backpack full of cookies. Okay? So thank you again, each and every one of you. Osium.
Oh, he Timtalat quena squi talitsin at slewat or e stalo tamith. Wananawait tanashqualo antini to e. Heights up awith siam and siaya. Haha, siais, kapeo. Thanking you, each and every one of you, introducing myself in my ancestral name and asking for permission from the ancestors that walked this earth before we came, to be able to come here to share my heart with you, asking permission to say prayers with these ancient ones, and singing my song saying that I come with good feelings in my heart, I mean no harm. I want to come with unity with my family to the Pachidat and the Dididat, holding my hands up high for the work and the words that they still carry on to this day, protecting their land, their waters, and their air, and their people. Having that big heart and invitation to call each and every one of you here to stand with us. Like my brother had said, not somewhat. One heart, one mind, one prayer. You're going to feel that when you're up here with these trees. My grandfather said we lived in a time that we lived in harmony with everything around us, our whole environment. That meant the rooted ones, the feathered ones, the finned ones, the four-leggeds. We learned from them. We took their knowledge and incorporated it into our lives. And we gave respect. We knew where they hunted. We knew where they grew, where they taught their young ones. We respected that area. And in turn, they had respect for us, and they stood up for us. There was that time where peace and harmony was like that. We've lost that with so much of the changes in our environment, in the Salish Sea and in our Coast Salish territories. But when we come together, I like this visual of these rocks coming around, because that's how we should stand. That's how we should be, as two-legged, not overpowering the rooted ones, not overpowering the four-leggeds, the feathered ones. We need to be shoulder to shoulder, giving our strength to one another. We walk this Mother Earth for a short period of time, and we each carry a spirit and we each carry a gift. And then once we find out our gift, it's our responsibility to share it. Share it with everyone here. Doesn't matter if you're young or old, white or black. It's our responsibility to walk this way. Like our trees, there's so much we can learn from our trees. I was just up there visiting one of the grandmothers, and the heartfelt gratitude I felt from the trees. You know, it's like they're mourning a loss. My grandfather, Chief Dan George, said, when you take a fish, you take a life. When you get an elk, you take a life. When you cut a tree, you take a life. It's our responsibility in how you carry on that way. You give thanks back to that elk, you give thanks back to that salmon. You use the cedar in a good way. You build a canoe and you put a spirit into it, put your spirit into it. You breathe life into it. You respect it and you honor it. That's not what's happening with these trees. So there was that sorrow, and I left my tears up there by them, by our grandmother, ancient ones. But that gratitude that I felt was each and every one of you that are here, you're using your voice. You're using your power and your gift for them. And I, in return, have that gratitude for each and every one of you for coming here and standing up and being there, being that voice. You know, coming into this territory, this is somebody else's home. This is, you know, somebody else's place. I've signed so many medicines walking up the trail. It is like our pharmacy. And to have that much medicine and that much richness, that much power, being surrounded like that, like my son had said, make yourself familiar with that. Show some of that respect and that love, and you'll feel it. When it comes back to you, you will feel that strength and that energy for doing what you are doing, being here. In my song that I sang, I was thanking the earth and the trees, the wind, the sun, the water, and everything that we collect from it. And I encourage you in your own way to do that. Find a moment in every day that you're up here to do that. Not, everybody has a spirit, the way you pray and the way you are, just sitting under a tree, sitting by water. Our waters are so powerful, and it's such a good medicine to give the water your frustration. Bless those souls and bless those youth that are on the front lines. Bless those elders, those parents, and the young ones. And I see a lot of little ones here. They're so blessed to be here. They're going to carry this for the rest of their lives. And I'm so happy to have this opportunity to come and share, again, holding my hands high to Rose and Pachidat and Dididat ancestors. Heitzap Awit, Heitzap Awit. There's my brother Ruben.
ACM, Hoichka CM, Siaya, Hoichka CM. I think today matches the emotional day that I felt yesterday. Sad for the trees and what's happening and the intentions of what people want to do and taking them down. Yesterday, they documented that 50 children died in the Kamloops residential school. And after the work that they did yesterday, they found out it was 215. I posted that. And some elders were posting on my message of what they witnessed in the residential schools that they went to, that there were graves. I heard stories today even of elders that were, when they're young, had to dig a grave. I heard stories of how the priests would rape the kids and then they'd have babies and then they'd incinerate them, and like horrible, horrible things that are the facts. But what I do know is my dad, my stepdad, my mother, my aunts, my uncles, even my 2 older brothers been through the residential school. My mom could remember when little kids and the horrible things that happened to them, murders that she saw. And it was a sad day for them. It really dug up a lot of hurt feelings for them, but it doesn't stop there. I volunteer with my son once a week downtown East Side. We're only 6-7% of Canada's population, but we're 40% of the homeless population, 50% of school dropout, 40% of the jail population, because those things still are happening in how Canada treats the First Nations. I'm a family counselor, but I haven't practiced for 10 years because I've been fighting that pipeline, 11 years. I got into business, and it's the same thing. When we want to develop some of our land and try to pull us into economic sovereignty, we got rejected. We wanted to build 100 units for housing, and they said no. And there's not even 5 miles down the street, 250 units were okayed by the same government, and they said no to us. It's always been like that. It's always been a fight. It's always been a struggle, and I still work in all those fields. I still volunteer with some of my family here in the men's treatment center. I still volunteer downtown East Side. It's those hurtful, harmful things that they continue to do that suppress my people still today. My cousin did 30 years for break and enter. A non-native doesn't get 5 years for murdering somebody, and he gets nothing for killing a First Nations. That's the fact of where we live and how Canada treats our First Nations. And it's no different about how they treat these trees. And how it's related, and why I'm talking like this is I went to Catholic school, and I cried to my mom. I was grade 2 and grade 1, and I said, I'm not going back. I can't go back. And she pulled me out and put me in public school. Then all my cousins, 90% of them followed me. But when I left at that moment, we quit going to church. And for about 20 years, we didn't follow it. Water meant we always had those, but we didn't have a ceremony to practice it. But we swam in the water when we were kids all the time. When my son said I was the first of his generation that wasn't able to eat out of the water, because when I was young, we did. When the tide went out, the table was set. That's what we'd say. We'd go pick up clams and Dungeness crab, and we'd eat it. Salmon was abundant in every river and stream in North Vancouver. Everything was abundant. And so in that time period when we didn't have any culture or spiritual belief, we had the land and we had the water. Even at that time, I didn't know that was a crutch that was helping us through those hard times, that was helping us heal, that was helping us to connect, that was starting to show us who we are. I was 23 before I went through my first ceremony, and I've been going every week since, and I'm 51. I haven't missed. Actually, for the last 15 years, I've been doing ceremony every single day. When they introduced me as chief, I'm not an elected chief, I'm a ceremonial chief, I'm a Sundance chief, and there's some of my Sundancers here. They Sundance with me. And we're inclusive in how I pray and how I do that. We're inclusive, it doesn't matter what you look like or where you're from. If you come with good intentions, I'll pray with you. Even if you want me to come pray with you, I will. I was told by the elder, when I come to your house, I'll pray your way. When you come to my house, I'll pray that my way. And I did. Muslim, Buddhist, Catholic, Christian, Baha'i. I prayed in the jungles in Brazil and Panama. Prayed in the outback, deep in the outback with some of my family in Australia, New Zealand, Brazil. I was open to that invitation. My grandfather said, if whatever you practice, as long as you're good at it, there's nothing standing in the way of us having a good moment with one another. And that's what I believed, and that's what helped me. But I know that the people that went to residential schools, some of them didn't make it. My dad was one of them. He overdosed right on Main and Hastings. My stepdad died the same way. The overwhelming abuse of what they witnessed was too much for them to carry, and they medicated themselves with drugs and alcohol, and that's what you see when you see homeless people. But you know what? Collectively, that happened. My story is the same story for our Indigenous people right across Canada. But something shifted. And I seen it with the Idle No More. And I'm seeing it now. And we're taking you along with us. We are finding our culture. We're finding our spirituality. I love the idea, and I believe that most everybody here knows what a smudge is. And I share this with my family and my Sundancers all the time. And all the ceremonies that I've been to around the world, it's simple. They use fire, earth, water, and sky. The fire represents the sun. You think of those trees that you're protecting and what they're doing when their leaves are reaching up and they're catching the energy of the sun. And think of it when you make a fire with it. It's releasing that energy of the sun. That's what it's doing. And you think of the earth that you might burn in sage and sweetgrass or lavender or whatever it might be, like an incense, or like some people might burn a candle. But what they're doing is they're taking one of those elements, and it doesn't matter how they come, But when you put two of those elements together, like a smudge, when you light a sage with a fire, smoke comes out of that. But with your intention, what that means is the spirit is born out of that. And that spirit never left me. Maybe we didn't practice, but what I do know, that spirit never ever left me. So when that smoke comes out of it, and that's the spirit in itself, because I created that intention where I said, I'm going to pray. I'm going to pray for myself to be a better human being, to love my family more and protect them more, and love even the stuff that I'm using. The sweet cedar, the smell of it is so beautiful. When we go, we give tobacco and we say, can we use this to help cleanse ourselves? We give an offering to the tree to have a little bit of cedar boughs to give to us. And in that process of just like how I lived off the land when I was a kid with crab and clam and salmon, that was connecting me to the waters. And when we pray like that and we introduce two spirits and then it gives birth to a spirit, I start to understand that too. And when I understand it, I start to understand the prayers that we say, and I teach my family those words of Natsamat, of why we're all here. I include you in that prayer of those simple words of what I say is Natsamat. We are one heart, we are one mind, we are one soul, we are one prayer. Together, not just us here where you hear me, but the trees and the water and the earth and the sun, that's Natsamat. And when I light that sage of those two elements that come together, I'm starting to understand that I'm a part of that I'm an instrument that was used to create that spirit, to put those two things together. And I know you know what I mean, because there's somebody special that I know that you love in your life. With my family, when we're together, it gives birth to a spirit, and that spirit is love. When we're together, all of our human spirits come together, and we could feel that love with one another. And that's what's born out of us coming together. And I know you feel that way about somebody, so now I know you understand spirit. So now I know that no matter what happened to me, and the things that I witnessed, it didn't break the idea of me understanding spirit. So I know you understand spirit because you understand love. And I could feel it when I touched that tree up there. I wept. I cried a little bit. My grandfather was Chieftain George. At that time, when he was alive in the 70s, he'd say, millions and millions of people want to hear my voice, which was true. And he said, all I want is the grass to hear me again. And that's spirit. That's his relationship to spirit, what he yearned for, of why we are here. We are here because we love. Not protect that. And I have been. The last 11 years, it's been my only work of what I do. When we met with our elders and we said, we're going to stop this pipeline, they said, you're going to have to teach them our way of spirit. And I was like, how am I going to do that? How am I going to teach people the way of spirit when Trudeau or Stephen Harper back then, or Richard Kinder from Kinder Morgan back then, how am I going to teach them the way of spirit when they don't even understand they carry a spirit within inside of themselves? But we did. And we showed them. We did a 1,200-page assessment, a spill analysis, a clean analysis, multiple economic studies because the price per barrel fluctuated. And we even did an air quality study. And we showed them and we took them to court. And like I said, that pipeline's still not built. We are using the tools of spirit and we're explaining it to ways that they can understand that we work within our Tsleil-Waututh Nation law, just like my elder Rose and our elder Bill work within their law. Coast Salish law is truth. How can we live in truth with our relationship to spirit of that tree? The water, the land, the sun, That's our truth. We can't live without it. Why would we disrespect it when it's given us life? That's the truth. Our family of that word of Natsamat, of one heart, one mind, one prayer, together in one spirit, that's our family of what we belong to. Not of just the human race, but of Creator's creation. That's family, and it starts with our family. Our health and well-being, of how we need to take care of ourselves physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. Look at the car. Each one of these states of being, of physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, represent the wheels on a car. Take one of those things away. How's that car going to run? Take away spirit. How is it going to run? It's really evident. We know, because the leaders of Canada and the United States, it's so evident of how crazy they think. You take away spirit from them, and what are they going to do? How are they going to act? How are they going to behave? And unfortunately, it's like the rest of people in Canada and the United States that are suffering because they have no identity with their own spirit. Mother Teresa said that at one end of the world, people are starving to death. It's true. Made her really, really sad. It's true. She said at the other end of the world, people's spirits are starving to death. And she's talking about here, where I go and I see when you take drugs or alcohol, and I work with the homeless people downtown, I can tell when they're on drugs because there's the glaze over their eyes, because their spirit leaves them. That's what happens when you take drugs, your spirit leaves them, but it's the same with greed. I shook Richard Kinder's hand and I told him we're going to stop the pipeline when I went to the Kinder Morgan AGM in Houston, Texas, in his own building. I told him I'm going to stop him. When I shook his hand, it was just like the relations that I know that are on drugs with the glaze in the eyes, that no identity to their spirit. When I shook his hand, it was the same thing. I saw no spirit there. And he was pitiful. His wheel was missing spirit, and even the emotions around it. Maybe he was physical and mental and just trying to run his life that way, which is destructive. $350 billion company, by the way. $350 billion company. I shared our assessment. I shared our analysis. I told the shareholders how we're going to stop them, and they really listened. 3 months to the day after I spoke to $350 billion company, their stock fell by 60%. Their dividends were cut by 74% because those shareholders listened. But that's the state of where we are and where we live. What I really, really encourage to you to create longevity, especially the young people. The young people, the longevity. I've been 11 years doing this, and it's tiring. People might think it's glamorous because I travel a lot with this work. I have to catch up on the work that I missed when I was gone. But longevity is so important. And I believe the reason why I'm here is my connection to spirit. I believe the reason why I'm here, able to do the work that I do, is the connection to Natsamat. To one heart, one mind, and one prayer. And that's what we need to continue to do, is lift each other up. Prayer is not mystical. You know, people come to ceremony, they try to fool me. Sometimes they do. And sometimes they fool themselves. But you can't fool spirit. You can't fool that genuine feeling of spirit, of feeling that tree, or feeling that spirit of the smudge, or feeling that spirit of any ceremony, of putting any two elements together. You can't pretend that. If we're going to do it, let's do it sincere. Let's do it beautiful, those fundamentals of humanity, of love and honor and respect and dignity and pride and compassion and understanding and truth and knowledge and wisdom. Those are the foundation of humanity, of what every religious and spiritual belief is supposed to be on. I'm not a good example about how to be, but I'm moving forward, and I will do it with you. Each and every one of you, I will do it with you. I believe you're all good people, but think of this, there's nothing wrong with making good people better. And how we do that is taking those fundamentals of humanity and applying them to our being of being physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional beings, reaching out to the elements of earth, of the fire, earth, water, and sun, and instilling that in our heart and our soul. When we first beat Kinder Morgan, they asked me that. They said, it was a David and Goliath fight. Little Tsleil-Waututh Nation took on this big company that Canada and the United States and Alberta and British Columbia supported at that time. So how do you feel that you won this David-Goliath fight? And I said, yeah. Kinder Morgan didn't have a chance to stand up to the spirit of the Tsleil-Waututh people. Yep. And that's what happened, and that's what I think what could happen out of here. The driving force. The driving force behind what we did was always spirit. It was always spirit. Even when we went to court, we told the judges, the 3 Federal Court of Appeal, and by the way, hand-picked judges, I'm not supposed to say that. The hand-picked judges of Trudeau, you know what sucks is we won. They even said, the discrepancy between your oil spill analysis is pretty far apart, but looks like you're right to Tsleil-Waututh and Canada's wrong, but we're still going to side with the best interest of Canada. Even when we caught Canada copying our evidence, agreeing with our evidence because they copied it, we submitted this evidence to the 3 Federal Court of Appeal judges, and they said, we're not going to look at that today. Even when we win, we lost. But that's still not going to get built, you know? And that's like here. And another thing that I want to share with you around spirit is if you believe in your goal in your life with everything that you are, 100% physically, believe in it, mentally, believe in it, spiritually, emotionally, believe in it with all your being of who you are, eventually your own spirit's going to believe in it and make your path to your goal easier. My sister was talking to shareholders in New York. Oh, by the way, the shareholders she was talking to in New York were investing over $350 billion into the Alberta tar sands. They pulled out about a month ago. But she was speaking to them and asking them to divest about, and I said a prayer. I said, I want to debate Richard Kinder. That's my spiritual prayer. I wanted that. And they called me from New York and said, hey, we're talking with this organization and they're asking if you could be their proxy and explain what we're doing. And I said, yeah. And they said, okay, pack your things. We're booking your flight. You're speaking tomorrow morning in Houston, Texas, and I'm there. And that's how that happened. It was a prayer. It was a prayer. And that's what we're putting here forward too. But when you pray for something, it takes work, and that's why you're here physically. It's a prayer saying that we're going to protect that, but it takes something to do that too. You have to push it forward. There's some work that's involved in it besides your prayer. And that's what I want for you. If you're here, let's be Natsamat. If you're here, let's be respectful to one another. You know, there's sometimes could be drama in the environmental movement, and I say, I'm not fighting you. My fight's with the Trans Mountain Pipeline in Canada. I think that's a big enough fight. I don't want to fight you. I don't. I said, let's go in the same direction. Let's jump in the canoe and paddle together. No more drama, no more fighting. Be respectful to one another. Be good to one another. Be respectful to our elder. Rose and Bill, be respectful to them. Be respectful to our other elders, raging grandmas. Be respectful to them. Be loving and caring to them. Be that to one another. I tell you, I'm that way. But I know when to fight too. There's a drug dealer on our reservation. Sometimes they don't call the police. They call me, my son, and my sons. We'll tell them to get off the res. Sometimes when somebody's being abused, we take care of it. Because sometimes the police won't. And it's always been like that, and I'm always willing to step forward to protect what I love, which is my family and earth and the water and everything on it. To Tsleil-Waututh Nation, not only do we protect, we enhance what we have. Our salmon count for our main river went down to under 6,000 for the whole year. We brought it up to over 6 million in 10 years. We enhance what we have. Second biggest port in North America. We've been cleaning it, Little Tsleil-Waututh Nation. First time in 40 years we did a clam harvest because we're cleaning it. We reintroduced elk into our traditional territory, and it was beautiful because it brought back grizzly bears and wolves and flowers and birds. Started to complete that ecosystem. That's what we do with the resources that we have. If we're going to enhance and heal our people from the residential school experience that they had, we also have to heal the spirit that helped us, and that's the land and the water and everything that's on it. And we heal that too. And we heal together as Natsamat. That's what I'm saying. Heal together as Natsamat and protect everything, because look at those beautiful little hummingbirds that we're protecting. Just kidding.
Yeah, I think I explained yesterday I'm not a speaker. This is for people that speak, but there's a young boy here that's been gatekeeping, and he's reminding me that how to have fun on this land as a guest. I can't remember his name, but I'm going to gift him this drum. This drum here is for him, and I will see him soon. He's a young boy that at nighttime he's lifting the gate so that we can come into these territories. Broccoli is his handle. Apparently he likes broccoli. All my relations.
So come on down. I know that there's more drummers and rattlers. Come on down to the circle.
It's all good.
Everybody got a drum.
Everybody got a drum. Come on down.